If this movie flops, do you think Sony will give up the Spider-Man villain movie?
No. Well, we were saying, to me, it feels like they've already given up, right? They have no plans, as far as we know.
Just like Spider-Man No Way Home had to like address Eddie Brock being in the MCU, and then they just shunted him back to his universe. We're gonna have to wait for Marvel Studios to address the Vulture being in the Morbius world, and maybe in Secret Wars there'll be like a little mid-credit scene where they're like, and the multiverse is fixed, and we're pulling back Michael Keaton into our universe because Sony's never gonna make this thing that they're trying to set up, and it's such a bummer.
Yeah. Welcome back to the break room. Sony released a surprise trailer for KRAVEN the Hunter, and boy, is he hunting. It's the one thing we know he wants to do. We'll get into all that and more. I'm Brandon Barrick. Joining me today, we've got Hector Navarro.
Hi.
Hector, what animal's blood are you mixed with?
Tiger.
Ooh, tiger. We like it. We like it. Also joining us today, we got John Costa.
I'm joining the hunt.
Oh, what animal's blood?
I really decided to go big.
I liked it. I liked it. What animal's blood are you mixed with?
Human baby.
Human baby.
That's human baby.
Yeah.
You were attacked by a human baby, and its blood dripped into your wound.
At a certain point during the show, I will become unresponsive. I may start crying.
John will.
I have already soiled
defecate in his pants. There we go.
Glad we're on the same page.
Yeah, great.
Same page. Well, before we get into our talk around KRAVEN, let's watch the new trailer. How do we feel about
let's watch it.
Can we even watch it so violent? I don't even know.
Comes around.
Okay.
I like how that reveal at the end too was like, this is gonna get the comic book fans excited because he has the full comic book costume, and I'm like, who was that for?
I'm excited for that. Here's my problem. I think that's like the last shot of the movie, and you're like,
yeah.
There's one more shot of him going through the
Madame
woods.
Web when they were in the costumes for the last shot of the.
Seconds.
I know.
That's my problem. I want him KRAVEN from the jump. I want the fur vest the whole time.
Okay.
Not the whole time.
All right. Where are we going? Where are we going first, Evan? What would you like us to? Right there. Is that what we're just going to go right into? What does everyone think?
Here's the problem that I have with this trailer.
Okay.
Oh,
human baby.
Where's Morbius?
Oh,
stop.
They set up the more.
This is a serious conversation.
More universe at the end of Morbius, and they've put out Madame Web. No Morbius. This movie's coming out. Just feels like they're setting up to make another more $1 billion.
Do you think the people at Sony, the producers who make these movies, like get excited when people go straight to the memes? When they go straight to like making fun of these movies? Do you think they're like,
they did,
and then
they re-released Morbius,
engagement.
and they realized that the memes were not real, and it fell apart, and now they're afraid of them.
And now they're afraid of them?
I think they do like the engagement, and they don't care if it's good or bad.
I will say,
there's like engagement.
This trailer is miles better.
You like it better than the
that
first?
We got last year, in my opinion.
I think it's a very slick trailer. I think if I hadn't rewatched Logan leading up to Deadpool and Wolverine and remembered that they played that song in the end credits of Logan, I think I wouldn't have been so cynical and been like, they're just trying to get Logan vibes with this song from the movie Logan. You know, if I hadn't rewatched Logan, I would have been like, cool, Johnny Cash, that is cool, because I would have forgotten that they used it in Logan in 2017. I think it's a slick trailer, but I do still have the challenge of like, I really like that character, and I really like the storyline KRAVEN's Last Hunt, and we'll never see that in a movie because that's supposed to involve Spider-Man.
Right.
And I don't want to be closed-minded and snobby or gatekeeping to be like, you can't ever do a movie that's its own, you know. But I just feel cynically the intention behind these movies is to cut out the middleman, not share profits with Disney. Sony has the rights to these characters, and they think, oh, KRAVEN is such a great character, he can have his own movie, without looking at the fact that he's a great character because he'll bounce off of Spider-Man.
Right.
I'm sorry, just to clarify what you just said.
Yeah.
So your preference would be for Sony to say, sorry, Marvel Studios, sorry, Disney, we're done lending you Spider-Man.
No.
Okay.
No. My preference would be, I wish that they would, if they want to do these solo villain movies, why not hire back Michael Keaton and hire a great writer or writers to do like a Vulture movie that takes place within the MCU, but like that they can make and just profit off of, but it still ultimately will feed back into, if it feeds into anything, the MCU storytelling. Do you know what I mean? Instead of like trying to like pull this into their own little corner.
Right.
That would be my that would be my ideal scenario. Is if they're trying to make money off of Spider-Man stuff, I don't think any of these villain movies have really worked, other than for me the first Venom film, and even that was like, I'll give you a compromise. Like I like things about it, but it's still not an ideal scenario.
And it felt like that. Oh, maybe for the second one they'll find a way to tie this into Spider-Man.
And then it kind of got worse and worse and worse and worse. And my ideal would be like, then just make money off of the animated Spider-Verse. Those are great. They had a Silk TV show they were going to do, then they stopped it. They're going to do a Nicolas Cage Spider Noir show. They're making money with Spider-Man characters. That's all Sony stuff.
It won't be Peter Parker, by the way, which is odd.
Whatever. I know, man. I know. So,
but not every universe is Spider-Man Peter Parker.
Sure.
Right?
But Spider-Man Noir
is supposed to be.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Not super.
I like this thread. Let's keep pulling on it here. I am Iron Man 10 asking, if this movie flops, do you think Sony will give up the Spider-Man villain movie?
No.
Well, we were saying, to me, it feels like they've already given up, right? We know that Venom Last Dance is coming out.
Right.
And then this movie, which was supposed to come out this month.
Yeah.
And it was actually supposed to come out in October of originally of 2023. They have no plans as far as we know. There's some stuff out there still. Like there's a movie, Night Eater, which was announced in like, that's a random kind of character.
Sin Eater?
No, Night Eater.
That's a Spider-Man character?
Yes. He was made in the 90s, and like they started working on a movie, and like Spike Lee was attached
like
for like
the
6
Bad Bunny
months.
El Muerto thing.
Right.
I was like,
It's
bro,
someone
what
was
are we
flipping through a
doing?
catalog at one point, and
Evan and I were talking too. Like sometimes they use another name of a Spider-Man, but it was probably actually a Prowler movie or something like that.
Sure.
Also, Night Watch, not Night Eater.
Night Eater. Oh, Night Watch.
Okay,
Sorry,
okay.
not Night Eater.
That's a Spider-Man character?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
he was like randomly. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Viewed in Web of Spider-Man number 97.
He was Web of Spider-Man.
Okay.
1993.
Anyway.
But it feels like they don't have any like cohesive plan. And yeah, there was that line from Adrian Toomes that like, we're good. I think it's the Spider. Yeah, we should team up. But everyone's like, oh, they're putting together Sinister Six. It's like, A, how can you put together a Sinister Six if you never fight Spider-Man?
At this point,
and B,
at this rate,
these are all heroes.
At this
they're not even
rate,
villains.
just like Spider-Man No Way Home had to like address Eddie Brock being in the MCU, and then they just shunted him back to his universe. We're gonna have to wait for Marvel Studios to address the Vulture being in the Morbius world, and maybe in Secret Wars there'll be like a little mid-credit scene where they're like, and the multiverse is fixed, and we're pulling back Michael Keaton into our universe because Sony's never gonna make this thing that they're trying to set up, and it's such a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah.
At this rate, do you think that Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, whatever it is, like doesn't want more Spider-Man? And I say that because like if I am an executive at Sony, I'm saying like let's do all these partnerships.
Sure.
Any Spider-Man stuff that you want, let's keep making
Amazon,
that deal. Let's
Disney,
keep doing it.
sure.
Because the Spider-Man
makes
No Way
money.
Home is the third highest grossing movie of all time, or whatever it is.
Right.
Like how do you as a studio not say more of that, please? So you got to think it has to be from the Disney Marvel Studios side.
That
They don't want more. Why haven't we done? Or maybe it's Tom Holland or whatever it is, but like I'm shocked that we have not gotten more Spider-Man movies
from Sony.
I would imagine
in partnership with Marvel Studios.
Oh, I see.
I don't understand why they're not making one every other year.
I think they're going as fast as they can. And I remember when they got the rights to Spider-Man, when they announced the deal, it was in 2014, and they squeezed in a Spider-Man movie into their lineup that they had already established and pushed back Captain Marvel and Black Panther, and people were rightfully like, hey man, this was your first black superhero movie and your first woman superhero movie, and you're pushing it back for another Spider. And it's like, because Peter Parker Spider-Man and the whole Spider-Man thing is so important to Marvel, that they were like, yes, we're gonna have to push back these very important characters because he's arguably the most important character. And if we factor him into Civil War and then he gets his own movie and then da-da-da-da-da. I mean, I think the reason we haven't gotten more solo Spider-Man movies is just because he's also been in the Avengers movies. Like, we've consistently had Tom Holland in these movies since, like, 2016, which is nuts. So, but yeah, I agree. It's like, if they wanted to do more, why not a Mysterio movie or a Vulture movie or a Prowler with a Donald Glover movie that they're setting up in
Where's
these
Miles
movies?
Morales? Why isn't this stuff happening? Spider-Man No Way Home came out in 2021.
Yeah.
We don't even have an announcement.
For sure,
for the
of
next
part
movie.
4.
They're probably working on it. There's a script that's been said publicly over the last week or so. I think Kevin Feige came out and said, like, we're working on script, blah, blah, blah. So, like, obviously, it's making progress. But I am just shocked that they're not trying to print these.
I mean, I'm sure that there's somebody at Disney and Marvel Studios who loves Spider-Man that they, like, are trying to get this stuff done. And I'm sure there's people at Sony that are trying to do that. But when you look at all of these characters and all the stuff that Marvel Studios is juggling, it does make, they're not the Spider-Man studio. They're the everybody else as well studio. And if the reason we haven't gotten an announcement for Spider-Man 4, where he teams up with Daredevil to fight the Kingpin or whatever, or he has a black suit because the little Venom goo left over from Tom Hardy is going to get to him, that might be because he's going to factor into Avengers Secret Wars. And then after that, they'll be like, here's his solo movie going forward and whatever. So
and I think that answers the question, too, because it's like, there's a lot of coordination that has to happen with all these characters now.
Sure.
And
when it doesn't happen, it's clunky.
Yes, and it has felt like it's always been clunky with Sony and Marvel. And it dates back to, Kevin Feige's first meetings with Amy Pascal, where allegedly sandwiches were thrown. You know what I mean? And like, I think the partnership is tough, and every time it feels like one of these movies come out, they do something with Spider-Man that we as the audience are like, wait, how does that track? And we imagine Kevin Feige's having the same thought of like, wait, we didn't agree to this. And I think ultimately what they'd like to do is like split the Spider-Man, right? Where Sony has a live-action Spider-Man actor, and Marvel has their own live-action Spider-Man actor, whether it's like Miles and Peter or something like that, where they don't have to worry about what the other studio is doing anymore.
There's already 6 Spider-Men.
But they can have...
We've got 2. We've got Miles and we've got Peter in the Insomniac games.
Right, but are you complaining that it's a problem?
And
like,
2. No, I know. I'm just saying.
You can have multiple Spider-Man.
How many Spider-Men can there be?
My ideal scenario would be, and I think Madam Web whiffed it because Madam Web was trying to backdoor pilot be the origin for like, well, here's what Uncle Ben is in the MCU. This movie's in the MCU. I think they were trying to do that. They're like, Adam Scott is the Uncle Ben we've never seen in the MCU. Right. He hooks up with Marissa Tomei. Because the movie took place in 2002. And I think that they, for many reasons, either Marvel Studios or like Sony themselves like ended up being like, no, you know what? It's not. And so now it's its own little pocket universe. It's not even connected to the Morbius or Venom stuff. My thing, going back to what you guys are saying, is I think that Sony should have, especially since they brought him back in No Way Home, Sony should just reveal, all these villain movies have been in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man universe the whole time. Except, even when they have an opportunity to do that, they go and do this where they're like, here's the Rhino, and it's not Paul Giamatti Rhino.
Right.
And it's just like, even me saying that out loud, I feel like there are people at Sony, it feels like there are producers who are working on those movies who like, don't know about those differences, or don't care. There was imagery of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, in the background of a Morbius shot in a trailer, and people were like, is this in the Tobey universe? And then there was also an image
that was never even in the movie.
It wasn't. But it's like all these things where it's just like, what are you guys doing? Like, and if you don't have a plan, at this rate, I would go to Marvel Studios and go help us come up with a plan, almost to like nostalgically wrap up this universe the way that Deadpool and Wolverine wrapped up the Fox X-Men movies, which everybody felt the love and the nostalgia.
Maybe that's what Sony's banking on here. They're playing the long con, okay?
Maybe.
They know that in 2032, the MCU's gonna put out a movie that's gonna bring all these characters back in a beloved way.
Yeah.
And we're all gonna enjoy it.
And Morbius is actually gonna say, it's Morbin time. And people are gonna go, oh my God, he said the meme
And then they're gonna play a Johnny Cash song, and we're gonna roll into it. You guys didn't ask, but I think, instead of Man Comes Around, what the Johnny Cash song they chose, I think they should have chosen Boy Named Sue. This is about a dad who puts a burden on his son to make him tough, and that's what this movie's about.
How do you do? And he stabs somebody?
Yes. Life ain't easy for a boy named Sue. Bites a dude's nose off, right? That's fun stuff.
Yeah, let's bring it back to Kraven. Kobe-Wan Kenobi in the chat asking earlier, how many noses will be bitten off in this movie?
I think as many as Kingpin can get forehead kisses in.
Plus or minus 3.5 noses, I say.
Ooh. You want to make a nose call?
I think
Hector?
it's just the one nose.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So in the original Morbius...
in the Kraven trailer, he bites the guy's nose off?
In the first Kraven trailer,
right. How many? I don't know. I don't care.
You think it's a signature finishing move?
I always feel silly talking about these movies with any level of sincerity, because I'm like, oh, nobody cares about these movies? Nobody's sincere about Kraven the Hunter? And then I feel bad because I'm like, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum. Everybody's having fun, ragging on it. So,
but that's an interesting
4
point.
noses.
Like, Sony has set up this universe of characters that no one cares about.
Yeah.
But you kind of brought it up earlier. We care about them in their relationship to Spider-Man.
Sure.
But like, they can't even do what DC is doing with Joker.
Right.
Because like,
where
obviously
people take that
Joker,
seriously.
Joker is a very beloved character.
Sure.
He is a villain, and you have a history with him being a villain.
Yeah.
And so, like, you can make these standalone villain movies, and, like, he's a bad person in those movies. He shoots a guy on national TV, right? So, like...
But it's all Oscar bait. At least they went for that.
Right.
You know?
Can Sony just shut this down and move into that direction?
I don't know.
Because there's smart people that work at Sony.
Sure.
They can make good movies.
Sure.
But they have, like, for whatever reason...
Can I tell you something?
I
don't think it's just a Sony thing. I think that the MCU is such a powerhouse, and it's also like the tone is kind of so pitch perfect for this genre or this storytelling method, superhero comic book movies, that any studio that tries to come out and be like, well, here's a superhero comic book movie, but it's a little different. I kind of feel like don't.
Right.
If you're just going to do that, then just make another movie. Just hire Aaron Taylor Johnson to do a John Wick style action movie.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. It sounds limiting, but I don't know if it's worth the attempt of like, let's get an auteur director to come in and really change the... I'm like, why? Why? I don't know what the end goal is. Is it just to get Oscars? Is it to make $1 billion off of a really bankable like character name? You know,
right,
and popularity.
That's what's
I don't know
about Sony is that
Sure.
it seems like they're trying to make money.
Sure.
It makes sense.
Sure.
And they're like using Spider-Man's name to
Sure.
get people into the theater, and like I feel deceived.
Sure, and the movies are just okay or bad.
They're like,
They're
hey,
not-
Spider-Man
yeah.
this, Spider-Man this, Spider-Man that. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
but here's a bad movie about something else. And it's
Right.
like, that is really frustrating as a fan. And that's kind of what, just to bring it back to Kraven for 2 seconds, that's why I liked this trailer more than I have other Sony movie trailers, is because it didn't do the whole, like, ooh, there's a Spider-Man
True.
thing happening.
True, you're right.
It didn't do that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, the first trailer had a shot with like spiders coming down. We were looking at that again today.
Yeah,
And, like the
yeah.
spider, even in the shot, when you look at it here in like still frame,
Yeah.
those probably aren't even there in the shot. Like if this shot
You
is
think
in the
those are
movie,
just in the
yeah,
trailers?
I bet they're just in the
Man.
trailer. Like,
Like,
That's
how
so
irritating
cynical.
is that?
Yeah,
It is.
'cause it's like-
and again, everything I'm saying about like I can't buy into the whole conceit of these solo villain movies. If
they're
these
not
movies
villains.
were weird little good movies that were bangers, that were like really fun, entertaining movies, that were totally departures from comic book characters or whatever, I would be absolutely forgiving to that. I'd be like, well, they're doing stuff that's like entertaining and different and cool. But it does feel like they're still trying to be somewhat beholden to the lore, but like make it fit. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm like,
Yeah.
then just if there's no Spider-Man in this universe, why have the powers of Venom come from outer space? Why not just have it be a science experiment? Like there's just like they're still trying to have their cake and eat it too, and it feels like if they came out with movies that were at least like Joker, that were very different and had a style to it. I don't know if it had a message, but had a style. Then I would be, saying different things.
Because if you pull out that scene in Joker where he meets Bruce, right, the little kid Bruce.
My least favorite
if
thing
you
about
pull
that
that out
movie.
of that movie,
Still works.
nothing changes. That movie is
Exactly.
the same. It's just as good.
Yeah.
Nothing changes.
Yeah.
So I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just don't know if it's worth it to try to be like, well, we don't have the access to the MCU, but we're still going to try to do an MCU
Right.
style movie. I'm like, don't even bother.
and
don't.
they make these movies kind of like, neutral in style so that like every person can
Yes.
fit in the other person's movie. I mean, it
Yes.
leaves kind of like a
That's a
blank
great
thing.
question,
and
too.
you
Yeah.
also bring up like comparing it to the MCU. Like the MCU hasn't tried to make a villain movie, right? And they're not trying to do that.
No.
They haven't tried to
No.
make a movie. Well,
Infinity War, whatever.
but that's
Loki,
different.
no.
Like they haven't. They're all about a hero. So it's like
Yeah.
Sony's trying to pretend like, oh, we're making these villain movies, but again, let Cruella kill the dogs. These aren't villains. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right.
They're not the villain if there's a more evil version of them
Yes.
in the movie that has worse intentions. And we were saying like, how does Morbius end? Right? Does Morbius end? That maybe is the most villainous ending in the movie because he's kind of like implied that he's going to keep drinking blood. Like he's not going to stop. He's not going to stick to the blue, right?
To faceless characters that we don't see.
Right.
And it doesn't matter.
So it doesn't really matter, but that's the closest they maybe got. But yeah, Joker works in a lot of ways because he is a villain. Now, the wrong people don't see it that way, but they're villains too, right? But it is insulting that they're not going a little harder on these movies. And just, if you're going to do a villain movie, do a villain movie.
Yeah, so based on like how this trailer was cut and everything, do you guys feel like this does feel like the most villainous, just based on what we've seen so far?
No, it feels like a John Wick movie. Like
Yeah.
John Wick is a
Like
guy who kills
revenge.
people, so
Yeah.
that's bad. But we root for John Wick because they killed his dog.
Right.
And he's got to go kill other worse bad guys.
And this
is John
this
Wick.
trailer made it seem like, oh, our dad is the evil
Right.
person,
Sure.
and you're
Or the Rhino is
start
the
doing
evil
his
person.
thing.
No,
Yeah,
no.
and
That's
instead
fine.
of it being like, hey, you're the world's greatest hunter, which do we even know who that is? Who's currently the world's greatest hunter right now? River Monsters guy hung it up.
The
I would've said him.
who's the Jimmy John's CEO?
Damn, dude.
Give it to
Damn,
him.
Messed up. I know. And this
Damn,
movie's not
dude.
even about that. That's
Yeah,
the thing that bothered
That's
me.
the other thing about
Straight
it.
up. I'm like, make Kraven
It's
an
like
awful,
Kraven-
despicable poacher. Make him one.
People like Kraven because he's hunting spot. Kraven
Yeah.
is an insane concept. Fur vest
Yes,
guy
yes.
with the tooth.
Who can like wrestle
He can
alligators
jump.
and
He
rhinoceroses
needs
with
an
his hands.
insane thing to fight, like Spider-Man, which is also silly.
Yeah.
It's not even hard, too, because we have media like The Most Dangerous Game. We have
That's what
all
I'm
of these
saying.
like
Right.
Battle Royale, Hunger Games
Look,
type
Ul-
of
Ul-
movies.
Ultimate Spider-Man,
We
the
can
comic
do it if
books.
this guy wants
Yeah.
to kill people movie.
On TV.
And
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah, they did it 20 years ago in the comic books of Ultimate Spider-Man. They made him a reality TV star.
There you go.
But that's how he interacted with Spider-Man. Anyway,
Especially
it's-
like with today's political climate.
yes, yeah.
Right? Like there is an opportunity to like have a social message.
Something.
You can tell a story that is not like super depressing. You can make him a bad guy and tell your audience like he is a bad person and we're trying to learn a lot. Like that's filmmakers want to have a theme and want to tell a
But he's
story
not a
and
bad
teach
guy.
people.
He's the anti-hero, which is just means
Right,
hero
now-
these days.
right.
Because they want him to team up with Morbius and Vulture and Venom in some movie.
But how is
that's
that
never gonna
six?
happen.
How is that six sinister at all?
It's not. It's not.
6, sinister. How is it that?
Maybe Toxin will be in there. I don't know.
Rebel
Madam
Mermaid
Web.
in the Twitch chat brings up a good point, saying the idea of villain movies confuse me. I don't want to root for the bad guy in one movie and then watch them be defeated by the superhero in the next.
Right.
Which kind of leads into a question a lot of people have been asking, including Zip Zero Stingy with De Niro. Do you think the next Spider-Man movie would have a Sony villain, and would that be Kraven? Right? Like
No and no.
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
wouldn't be voting, or it's like it's hard. I think it's very tricky. Yeah, and the rights, all that stuff.
Again, I think that Sony's best move, if they were to do this, would be to hire a great writer or team of writers to do a script where Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man comes back. If he's if he's from another universe, whatever. At this
Yeah.
point, they've opened up the multiverse.
Yeah.
But he shows up, or the villains from this realities go into his world, and he has to sort of like, it's his movie. It's Peter Parker's Part 3, his last journey. Maybe we introduce his MJ that he'll meet after the death of Gwen Stacy years ago. But that should be the story. And then he has to deal with Venom, Morbius, Vulture, I guess, and then Kraven, and then not Madam Web because it's in the past and it doesn't make any sense and whatever.
She exists throughout time.
Whatever, sure.
She could finally be old or something.
Sure. Exactly, whatever. Well, it doesn't matter. But they
You
should
ordered the
basically
lo mein, I think.
they should wrap up their sort of villain-centric stuff and then refocus their plan and I think look at what Marvel Studios is doing. Because the next Spider-Man movie is probably going to be him and Daredevil team up against Kingpin.
Yeah.
And that's enough of a movie. That's rad as hell. That's
Right.
awesome.
Right.
I don't know how Sony would look at that and go, can we put Tom Hardy Venom in there?
Well, it also
Other
feels,
than just dollar signs, which is
Yeah.
like, it's a bad idea. It's gonna.
it also
dilute-
feels like
anyway.
Marvel at this point. They're like, if we're making a movie, it needs to have 3 to 4 heroes in it.
Sure.
We have this huge roster.
Sure.
We don't have time for standalones right now.
Sure.
And if you could please use a villain we've already used,
Yeah.
that would be great too.
Yeah.
I'll say
Just
this
to cram them in.
too about Sony and this like Spumsy, which is not what they call it, but whatever.
Yeah, they really gave up on that, didn't they?
They did.
Pretty soon. Pretty soon.
I think that like Tom Hardy has sort of expressed that this is his last appearance.
His last dance, if
Yeah.
you
right?
will.
It's his last dance.
Yeah.
You know,
He would show up again in Secret Wars. I guarantee.
Sure.
Yeah,
They're like, we need you for 3 days.
for whatever, right?
Because they probably have like a pretty good written scene for
But-
him.
Yes,
You
and he
know,
would
like,
love to do it.
Tom Holland, who knows what his future as Spider-Man is?
I think he's in it
seems
for the
like
long
it's
game.
It's either like maybe one more movie and some Secret Wars stuff, or who knows? It could be another trilogy.
Every 5 years.
How old is that actor? They're gonna have him until he's 40, dude.
He's 17.
It's
Yeah,
very
no,
possible.
he's
but
25
my
or
point,
something,
is
yeah.
like they
28.
Yeah.
they needed to nail it while Marvel Studios, quite frankly, was nailing it with Tom Holland Spider-Man, right? And
They meaning Sony, and they didn't nail it.
and they didn't. And so, like,
Yeah.
when you talk about, it should be like an Andrew Garfield
Yeah.
solo movie, quite frankly, I don't know that Morbius and Kraven take place in the same cinematic universe.
Neither do I. That's what I'm saying.
I have no idea. And
yeah.
quite frankly, I don't know if I care.
No, neither do I.
He named himself Venom as a joke and in his fight, so we know there is a Venom in his
That's
universe.
true. That is true. That's the
maybe
loosely
not Tom Hardy's
connected-
Venom,
Yeah,
but
we
there-
have a baby named Peter in the
or I will
Venom
say
movie.
in Morbius there could be Spider-Man comics. We don't know.
Right.
But
don't
like,
know.
it feels like Sony is afraid.
Yes.
It feels like they're afraid to
Yes.
make movies in this universe and say things explicitly.
Mm-hmm.
They've never been able to say these movies take place in the same universe,
Mm-hmm.
or these characters know each other, or there is a Spider-Man and it's this Spider-Man. They feel afraid to make definitive statements,
Mm-hmm.
and like that makes it hard as a fan to walk into these movies and like care, because I don't see the studio being like, yeah, we got you.
Yes.
We're gonna tell a compelling story about characters
Yeah.
you care about.
I don't want Sony to come out and be like, we have to now do a Hall H presentation like Marvel Studios and be like,
Yeah.
here's a movie we're announcing that's going to come out in 2028 or something. I don't care. I don't need them to do that, but I just need each of these movies to feel like it's not a half measure.
Right.
And it does feel like they're
Yeah.
afraid. And they do feel like half measures. That's why my pitch keeps coming back to do the full-blown Spider-Man versus these guys. And if you go, oh, our Spider-Man is Tom Holland. Sorry, Sony, he's not. He's not yours. That's Disney's guy.
Yeah, don't you touch
100%.
He's walking around Disneyland. That is not your character. The Tom Holland is. Don't you touch him.
Yeah.
Don't you
touch
so
him.
So then you use Andrew Garfield, but get him to come back with a very good script where it'd be worth it for him to do it. And I'm sure him interacting with Tom Hardy, Jared Leto, Aaron Taylor Johnson would be enticing for all of those guys. Michael Keaton. I'm sure they'd all be like, yeah, look, we'll all mix it up together and act against one
Yeah,
another.
if the script is there,
Yeah,
absolutely.
They'd be down for that.
Well, before we keep going, I wanted to thank our sponsor today, A Better Paradise. You've heard us talk about this show before. A Better Paradise Volume 1 and Aftermath is a podcast from the writers of the Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto series. It's a new immersive audio fiction podcast that is a sci-fi thriller audio drama and the very first story in an expansive new universe from Absurd Ventures. It's set in the near future. A Better Paradise tells the story of the ill-fated development of an ambitious but addictive digital game world led by project inventor and psychologist Dr. Mark Tyburn. As the advanced software they developed began delivering unexpected and disturbing results, the team fell apart under strange circumstances and the project was abandoned. The game world and the superintelligence within were discarded, left dormant and undiscovered until now.
Ooh.
Zach Huddleston, recently released from prison. You remember that guy? He called the show a paranoid neo-noir set in the near future where a psycho AI is hunting down the people who created it. It's a little Alex Garland, a little Blade Runner, a little Mr. Robot, and a lot of fun. He had to look up a few of those words in the thesaurus before he wrote that. A Better Paradise is created and written by Dan Houser, lead writer of the Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption series, and directed by his longtime creative partner, Laszlo. A Better Paradise is out now and available everywhere you get your podcasts. Go and listen today. And don't forget to follow A Better Paradise on your platform of choice to make sure you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, check out nerdriot.shop. Hector loved this shirt so much. He looked it up for himself.
Yeah.
He favorited it. He
Yep.
put it in his little shopping cart.
I ordered
Maybe
it.
He'll buy it. Oh, he did
I
order it.
ordered it. I shipped it. It's at my house.
Oh my gosh.
I
I
can't
can't
wait.
one for free.
The service,
I can't-
the speed.
What?
We've got other shirts on there. We've got lots of merch inspired by all sorts of things. We've got like a Doom Iron Man mask shirt.
Can you
There's a
guys
lot of
hire
Deadpool
an artist to
Wolverine
do
shirt.
Andrew Garfield facing off against all of those villains we just listed? Because that would be cool
bad
concept.
pitch.
That
I've
would
been
be
trying
a
to think
cool
of
concept.
more,
That's what it
good
is.
pitch.
And at the top of it says like, "This is the movie I want to see," and at the bottom says Sony exclamation
What
point.
about
Maybe don't
like
do that.
Uncle Sam style Spider-Man, but it's Andrew Garfield, and it's like
I
Sony,
want
we
you-
want you
you
to
to
make
put-
another
Yeah,
Amazing
that's
Spider-Man
cool.
movie. Amazing Spider-Man had the best web swinging.
Yeah.
Let Spider-Man swing his webs in New York.
And that costume, maybe arguably the best.
Good costume. Good. I
Really
like the
good.
ripples
For
when
part
he was
two,
going
yeah.
down. Nerdright.shop. Support the channel. Hey, yo. I want to talk about a fun little rumor.
Okay.
I heard a rumor.
Okay.
If you notice in this trailer, there's like a shot of Rhino's arm. It's just his arm, and you see it start like scaling up and stuff
That
like
dude
that.
in the Jeep or whatever.
The
Okay.
dude.
Okay. Yeah.
Who's
Rhino.
playing like Rhino, right?
Rhino.
There was a rumor
Jim.
that like that shot looks very different, and when this guy has talked about the movie, he said like all of his transformation happened in the third act. He said this in like August 2022.
Okay.
His transformation happened in the third act, and it was like no visual effects. It was all like kind of like practical makeup or whatever.
Oh.
Now there was a rumor that's like kind of been going around that like that shot was like kind of like the end of the movie. Like Rhino wasn't Rhino in this movie. That transformation was happening towards the end of the movie.
And then they cut away.
And then
with the reshoots, they just added the big CG Rhino guy.
And that the reshoots that they did involved like kind of putting Rhino in as more of like a third act type villain.
Yeah.
Because we also have like Chameleon in this movie.
Okay.
So I guess we don't know if he's being Chameleon in any of these shots.
They are
he
brothers.
Could look like anybody.
They're brothers in the comic books, the Chameleon and Kraven characters from Spider-Man comics.
And that was like a recent kind of retcon, or was that
No,
always?
I think that was all that back from the 60s.
I think
the Chameleon
was
showed up
Spider-Man's first villain.
Yeah, and then he like called Kraven because they were like both Russian.
Yeah.
Because this comics came out during the Cold War.
It was the
so
60s,
a lot of
yeah.
Russian bad guys, all the time. Beyond the Iron Curtain. That's Iron Man's whole deal. But there's also a character in Spider-Man Far From Home who's supposed to be Chameleon.
Right.
So it's like another like
one of the dudes who was like helping out.
Yeah. Their little field
Nick
trip.
Fury, though, did he know Nick Fury was a Skrull? We don't know.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a thing that was said like after the movie came out, where they're like, "Oh yeah, we met. It could be that Ivan.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe." Now, I said this earlier this week, but I want Chameleon to use the old school comic book method,
Which is
he sprays a little gas from his belt onto his face, and then he can like
Dumb.
move the muscles in his face around
real
to
dumb.
become whatever. Not dumb. That's
super
genius.
dumb.
No, I'm so tired of the like shapeshifter effect of like they just walk by a pillar and when they come out the other side
That's
they look
also
different. No, I want to see face mashing muscle gas.
Why not?
There's a 0% chance it's not like
You have a man.
my suit.
You have a man whose blood is mixed with lion, running
Yeah.
around, and he's the world's greatest hunter.
Yeah.
You can have a man mushing up his face.
I agree.
Thank you.
Evan,
Thank you,
thoughts?
Hector.
Any thoughts?
Any thoughts?
Well, I think about this Rhino rumor, right?
Yeah.
If it was all physical, I mean, I got the still for the trailer now. There's no way that this was that's
not
CGI.
That's
right?
definitely
Okay.
CGI.
And why? What are we doing?
That's computer
Of course
generated
it's
imagery.
CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know. So it's CGI.
Look at the
If-
teeth.
Yeah.
They look great.
Yeah.
People
wait
don't
a
have teeth like that.
second.
Nope.
If this was added late,
Yeah.
does that mean that is Sony? What could the inclusion of more of these characters mean? Like more of these like named.
I don't know if it means anything because we were just talking about how there are no plans.
Right.
Presumably. I don't know if it means anything beyond they had a movie, it teased the Rhino, they showed it to test audiences, and some test audience was like, but where's the Rhino? You guys are teasing a thing, and it's very unsatisfactory to like not have that pay off. And they were like, all right, well, we're already kind of saving money in this movie in a lot of ways. Maybe we should throw some money at a CG Rhino to put in this.
Do you think originally it was just like the dude's taking some sort of like super soldier serum, for lack of a better word?
Sure.
And then
I
the
don't
end
know.
of the movie was originally like, oh, he's gone too far, and now he's starting to actually change. But they were like, no, we'll just make him change
That
earlier.
will be in the next movie. That is
Yeah.
a tease for the next one.
Do you think
I'm
there's
sure.
like a post-it note on some executive's desk at Sony that like mandates a tease for a bad villain at the end of it? Like the
I
Sinister
don't know.
Six tease at the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I think-
I think it's
honestly,
less than that.
The
I
Morbius
think it comes
crap. It's just
organically
like-
when folks like these folks and others are trying to make movies like this.
Right.
I think it just comes organically. I don't mean that to sound insulting, but I think that they have studied these movies, these kinds of movies, and they're like, okay, got it.
There's-
We know
there's
how to
something
do
at the
that.
end that,
right?
like,
and it's just like
yeah.
it's not quite. It doesn't.
Right.
It's not hitting. I don't think that it's like I don't know. I think that it shows honestly that they're producers and writers that as they're making the movies are like, you know what would be cool if this was the mid-credit scene. I think that's how it happens.
Yeah, and you know what? As much as I love a post-credit scene or a mid-credit scene, if they're done well,
They're great.
we're out of time to have these done well. We're
getting
not,
tough.
that's a pun.
Yeah.
But like, you get something like Deadpool and Wolverine, and like that post-credit scene felt to me, it was fun. It was a fun scene. Felt to me that like someone somewhere was like, you got to do one.
Yeah.
And they
sure.
were like, okay, well,
No,
I
but
guess
they've
we're
always
just
done jokey
done.
ones in Deadpool. It was
Sure,
like
sure,
Deadpool.
I know, but like I like the one from the first Deadpool movie a lot better. Right,
Ferris
that
Bueller.
feels
Yeah.
more organic to that character.
Like it was written from the script day one.
Right.
This
And-
one
and
was
I
good
just think
too.
that, like we're running out of like fun ideas for mid
Yeah, man.
post-credit scenes.
Let me tell you also why. Because these movies used to be mid-credit scene or after-credit scene is going to literally tee up the movie that you're going to see in
It was a
theaters
scene
next
from
summer.
the next movie.
It was, or if it was just
Yeah.
like an actual. If it wasn't a scene, it was just a clear setup for the next thing. But now the MCU.
I mean, Spider-Man No Way Home was a trailer for Doctor Strange.
Yeah, exactly. Which I don't love either, but it's like it exactly. But they've spread these out so much that now when we have Hercules showing up in Thor: Love and Thunder, it's like, when are we ever going to see that character
That's what
again?
I'm saying.
So that also, I think, has led to audiences being a little less stoked on those. And so that leaves these kinds of movies being like, okay, well then if we can't do like a badass setup one, we got to do a funny one.
Right.
And that also might leave audiences being like, okay, enough with the funny ones. What's the next? When are we going to set up the next? But they're not.
I guess you're
going
to disappoint people anyway.
Sure.
Form.
So
if
so
you don't
at
do
least,
one, people are going to be like, why did I sit through these credits?
Sure. Then
Yeah.
Because you want to see all the wonderful people involved that. The
Yes,
hundreds
that.
of people
I
that
know.
it takes to
And
make
listen to
one
the
movie.
music.
I'm talking about general audiences.
Right. Who don't respect cinema.
I mean,
yeah.
Well, they want to
Yeah.
see, they're adding new titles. Like, there's the Best Boy, but is there going to be a new fun one
That's
that
right.
they can Google?
Yeah.
That's why, right?
That's what they want to see.
Yeah.
They want to see where the movie was filmed.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have preferred a Rhino that was stuck inside of the Rhino suit?
I would have preferred.
I kind of
Paul
like that
Giamatti.
about the comics.
I would have preferred Paul Giamatti in that dumb
Yeah.
big robot
speaking
thing.
of these weird
Just because it would have meant a connection.
Teases.
Yeah.
But like Paul Giamatti as his character from The Holdovers, like an older rhino, an older wall-eyed rhino who is like, he's falling apart.
Love Paul Giamatti. He's gonna be in Star Trek.
Oh yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah, Star Trek
weird.
show. Yeah, I'm excited.
Weird.
He loves Star Trek. He
But,
loves
like,
Planet of the Apes and Star Trek.
You know how sometimes
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah, man.
It's just like, I'm
Yeah.
going to watch you and I'm going to
Yeah.
be like Paul
That's Paul
Giamatti.
Giamatti.
And
That's very
Yeah.
that's very like Next Generation, where like a lot of
Yeah.
actors showed up on that show just because they loved Kelsey Grammer like loves Star Trek. And
Yeah.
they're like, we'll put you in,
absolutely.
buddy.
It's a little
Stephen
bit how,
Hawking
the whole
loves
storyline.
Star Trek. They just put him in that
a
show.
little bit how
man.
I feel about, it's different, but that's a little bit how I feel about Matt Smith in anything Matt Smith is in.
It's just
I
Matt
can't
Smith.
be like, it's just Matt Smith.
Oh, okay. Okay. So what are our final thoughts on what's next for Sony here?
Yeah, because, this movie comes out
don't know.
after Venom 3.
Yeah.
It's the last movie that is
Heavily
production,
slated. Yeah,
in
yeah.
production
Right.
for
Yeah.
Sony in this universe.
You want them to try and reset? I mean, we've kind of
I
said
don't
it
know.
all.
I have to
here.
imagine that they do have a script for something
Yeah.
that they're now like, oh, we got to get
But
it
Bad
into
Bunny
production.
pulled out.
I know.
What
I
are you
know.
gonna do?
And they'll hire some other Latino. I'm sure there's another one in town that they can hire. Maybe not a huge mega pop star, but
Maybe not.
I'm sure that they might be dusting off a Black Cat and Silver Sable script, something
Be down for that.
that
But, like, I think
Yeah.
you're right, Hector. If you don't have the guts to like put a Spider-Man in it,
God,
don't do
just
these.
do it.
Like,
You're right.
just make your own Spider-Man. Like, start over. I know you're scared. I know you had franchises before and they didn't work. You kept backing out on them.
Yeah.
Just like commit to it and go for it. You know,
you know
you
what
don't have
else-
to do an origin story. Just
Right.
give us a Spider-Man.
You know what else I would love is a collaboration where it's like, look, we're going to make our own movie and we're going to hire Donald Glover and he's going to be the Prowler and he will introduce his nephew Miles Morales and it'll be a live action movie and it'll be set in the MCU, but we won't feature any of these other characters. But they're going to check in with Marvel Studios and go, look, we want to do this. How can this play with your plans?
Yeah.
And as long as you tell us where you want us to start and end, can we just do a movie? And I'm not saying give Marvel Studios script approval, but at least like, hey, if these are our beats of the story, is that cool? Because we hired this writer and this is the script we're going to go with. Is that cool? And Donald Glover is excited. He's on board. And
Yeah.
we paid him an amount of money that he's willing to come back. And he's looked at the script and he's like, yeah, we can work with that. Marvel Studios, is that cool with y'all's plans? And then for them to go forward that way. But
Now,
I don't
how
know.
many times does Pepsi have to be featured in this movie? Because that's the other problem I think Sony has, is that they really
is
rely
such a weird
on
specific-
Yeah.
they rely on like
Yeah.
product placement, and it
Yeah.
hurts
Where
these
you're-
movies in a
Sure.
big
How many
way.
PlayStation
Sure.
5s?
I mean,
could
Sony can
trust,
put your
Sony
Sony
Ericsson
products in there.
phones.
but
It's
I could
fine.
trust somebody like, again, the talent or the writer. I could trust a Donald Glover to like
Right.
work with that.
Or
Do you know what I mean?
even
Tom Hardy
hey,
played
Tom Hardy.
PlayStation well.
Or even like, maybe not for a Prowler movie or whatever, but like get Chris McKenna in, who wrote on all of the MCU Spider-Man
That's what I'm saying.
movies,
That's what I'm
right?
saying.
Like, so that the
Absolutely.
tone is consistent. or whatever.
Absolutely.
Now, I
Absolutely.
think that we are sitting here at this desk, and the big thing that we don't know at this desk is what that contract looks like between Marvel Studios and Sony to share Peter Parker, whatever it is. So we don't know that means, maybe that means that Sony can't do a Miles movie.
Right.
We don't know.
I don't know.
You know, maybe they
somehow...
can't do another Andrew Garfield movie.
Right.
We don't know.
Right.
So it's hard for us to sit here and kind of say, like, this is what
I know.
Sony should do, because we don't have all of the information. But what I want as a fan is for them to work with Marvel Studios in a bigger capacity and just make more of these movies.
Sure.
Make a Miles movie, make a Prowler movie, and involve Marvel Studios. I don't see why not, right? Unless the answer is Kevin Feige has this 10-year plan, which we've heard about in the past, right?
But it changes.
And it doesn't include any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to budge
Yeah.
because Marvel Studios, you know, went through a little bit of a dip. And maybe they want to be like, well, we're sticking to our guns. We have a plan that we're really proud of and we believe in. And, like, we don't want to throw a kink in the works.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
What I want Sony to do is, and I don't know how they could do this at all, but, you know, don't worry about all the Spider-Man stuff. Maybe partner up with Universal and let's get a third Sherlock Holmes movie made, guys.
Oh, interesting.
I want RDJ and Jude Law back together for that third Sherlock Holmes movie. I've been promised.
I would love if
Let's make it
they're
happen.
going full blown with Ghostbusters. I would say, all right, Sony, just do a Ghostbusters multiverse movie.
Oh, okay. I'm
And
in for that.
bring back the female
Yeah.
Ghostbuster cast and have them interact with the new-ish.
yeah.
I'm like, just do that. They've done
have
comic books of
have
that.
the real Ghostbusters,
Yeah,
two-dimensional.
exactly.
We talked about this on
Two-dimensional,
Monday.
animated, coming out.
Animated Ghostbusters.
I agree.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, have the ghost of Egon Spangler there, saying nothing,
Yeah.
just there,
Paying respects.
paying respects. I
Uh-huh.
must say.
Yeah, man.
Everyone feel good? Everyone feel talked down about Kraven? Are we
Yeah.
excited? Are we thrilled?
I know Zach's really excited.
I
Zach couldn't
know.
get over the nose bite.
I like
He really
a lot of
wasn't.
the violence. Looks fun.
Yeah, the bear
I'm
traps were fun.
Just like,
I'm open to having my mind change and being
Yeah.
like, that's a
Yeah.
rad little movie.
Also,
Yeah.
we had some cool posters.
Yeah.
Whoa,
We
let's
had
take a look
some
at
cool
these
posters too.
Cool.
Pretty intense
Oh.
posters.
okay.
Villains
This
are
one has
born.
3
Oh,
T.
you know, we
made.
didn't talk about this at all. It was announced a few weeks ago that this
Blood.
is like a rated R movie.
Yeah.
Which is that's a first for Sony Marvel,
They've-
right?
The Venoms are PG-13.
I
Right.
think so. Yeah, I think
Even
so.
though the trailer for the most recent one featured some head biting, but there was no blood.
Yeah, it's old hat at this point, man.
Yeah.
Logan was the first one. Deadpool was the first one to do.
Sure.
It, really.
But like,
if
hey,
we're not
those,
counting like.
those are two pretty good comic books.
But I
Yes,
do-
they
I do
are,
think-
But I'm also not. Full respect to like Blade and like Punisher Warzone was also rated R, I think, which came out in like 2008. Yes, it's. But I think Deadpool and Logan, that 1-2 punch in 2016,
Yeah.
2017, really made all the studios go, wait a minute, we can, and that led to Joker, and that led
Right.
to this. So I'm not looking at this going like, yes, this is the absolute best way to tell the
I
Kraven
agree.
solo.
Yeah.
No. Whereas rated R Wolverine and rated R Deadpool, I was like, yeah, that's the way to
But
go.
it
with
does
that.
make more sense. I mean, like, if they were doing a Mysterio movie, yeah, make that PG-13.
Yeah,
but, like,
for sure.
Venom, Morbius, and Kraven are 3 of the most violent, bloody
Yeah, I
characters
guess so. I
that
guess
Spider-Man
you're right.
fights.
Yeah.
Like, those should be R-rated. Just
Yeah.
do it. Just do it.
It's weird, man.
No one wants to take their 9-year-old to the Kraven movie. Make it R-rated. Come on. He's biting a nose off. 4 noses?
And they
Is that
did.
what we settled on?
I would take a 9-year-old to the Kraven movie.
Okay.
It looks like it's kind of made for 9-year-olds. You know.
Okay.
What
That's
are they gonna
perfect.
Have, we're gonna have like
Damn,
hard-hitting life questions after that, or are they
Yeah.
just gonna go like, "That was gross"?
You're gonna be like,
That's
are
it.
you gonna poach animals? Does that change your mind about poaching?
I
That
will
won't even
say,
come up.
I feel really bad
Okay,
for the
that's
director. I do.
What did the director do? Didn't they do a movie you liked?
I have no idea. I feel bad for the director. I feel bad for the cast. I feel bad for the crew because they're in a situation where everyone who is approaching this movie is coming in with skepticism.
Sure.
And that's a crummy way
Yeah.
for your film to start, right?
And you
obviously,
got
like,
pushed
there's
back. You
good
had to do
reason.
reshoots probably because of studio notes.
and test screenings and all that kind of stuff. There's good reason. And look, I am actually a huge lover and advocate for reshoots, right? Like, as someone who has like made short films, not the same thing, but you go into the editing bay and you're like, ugh,
Sure.
there's a couple of things that I wish we had done. And so, like, give them the opportunity
Yeah.
to go make that movie better, right? It's not always studio notes. It's not
Right.
always bad changes.
Right.
You know,
I agree with that.
The change could be, hell yeah, now we get more Rhino, and maybe that's a great change.
I would love for that to be the case. That it was a great change.
But again, I feel bad. I'm approaching this movie with so much skepticism. I don't think I'm going to like it when I go see it.
Right.
It's crazy,
And that's
how,
kind of a
it's
bummer.
crazy how much money Eternals made, and they're still like, we're not going to do a sequel. Compared to like these Sony movies, and Sony was like,
They
we're
learned their
doing
lesson from Captain
but
Marvel.
I guess.
One of their highest grossing movies.
Yeah.
And then their lowest grossing movie.
I know,
Right?
I know. Why? Too much time between the sequels. The marketing wasn't there. The film itself was bad. I don't know,
I don't know.
because I've definitely seen worse movies than the Marvels
Absolutely.
that made
Oh, yeah.
more money.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I would say
the strikes,
I would say Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
I prefer the Marvels to Captain
Yeah,
Marvel.
same. So I will say I think we did miss out on those actors promoting the hell out of that movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
most definitely.
The way Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have been promoting the hell out of this movie, and it's so fun.